So Dave, full stop. Are we exporting soybeans to China right now?
To my knowledge, no. I mean, if there are any soybeans getting in, it's extremely low quantities. The Chinese have made it clear they're not going to take American soybeans. They're going to find alternative sources of protein ingredients. That may change over time, but it's de minimis, if any.
So the one narrative is that, look, China is a voracious consumer. They're going to need our soybeans eventually. They can talk a good talk. They're going to need it. The other one actually came from Citi and said demand destruction, port stocks, and reserves can be such that they can actually satisfy their soybean needs with Brazil and Argentina crops. Which narrative do you see?
I think I would take the former narrative because I think they are consumers of protein. Their appetites are changing. It's a big country, obviously, 1.3 billion people eating more meat, more chicken, more pork. They need to feed their livestock. And so their reliance on heretofore American soybeans was significant. I don't think it can be purely replaced by just Brazilian and Argentine soybeans, especially with that drought that I was talking about. So therefore, what they'll do is they'll find substitutes. They'll maybe use what they have in stocks. They may come forward and say, you know what, we need American soybeans. That remains to be seen.
You mentioned wheat before.
Yeah.
It's a possible substitute for at least some purposes. If they want to buy a lot of wheat to make up for a lot of soybeans, where would they get that from?
Well, they get it from Russia. And actually, Russia, talking about markets and new suppliers and new ordering of world trade, Russia this year and 2 years ago is the #1 exporter of wheat. That's a title that used to be held by this country. Russians are very low-cost producers of wheat, but it just shows markets are dynamic, and they'll respond to price action, but also to things like tariffs.
Also, we've talked about this before in terms of climate change. Literally,
well, I wonder.
Like a ship can go in a different direction now around the Arctic tundra. So, like, you can actually ship things in a better economic way than you would before.
Well, what about that? Is climate change actually helping Russia when it comes to wheat?
No, I think it's more about they're a low-cost producer. But certainly, as Alex said, that shipping lanes are different now because of climate volatility and climate change. Ships can pursue different routes. But I think it's more about they've advanced their agricultural economy. I think their production, I think I read, is up in wheat 50% from a year ago.
Yeah.
So you think about the major wheat producers, Canada, U.S., Australia, Russia, they're #1 now.
And they had a drought. I mean, if you look at Europe and Australia, too.
Exactly.
So let's go back to China. We talked about the demand pull they're going to need at some point.
Yeah.
U.S. soybeans. Let's talk about the price dynamic, because the premium for Brazilian soybeans is like 25%. Argentina premium is also rising. At what point does China say, I literally can't afford it?
Well, that's the big question, which is, where does the pride and the political rhetoric have to stand down to pure economics?
Yeah.
So I was part of a group that was with foreign CEOs in Beijing this summer, and we met with President Xi Jinping. And so this was before things had devolved to where they are today. He was very clear, we're not going to stand down. This is a matter of pride for my country, and we're not going to be bullied. So you can speculate from that remark that they're going to stay and find alternative sources of supply. But again, price can drive a lot of different decisions.
Well, exactly. And pride is one thing, saving face is one thing. When your people are having to pay more and more money for food,
right,
that can really have some political effects.
Right.
Is there any indication that the prices to consumers in China might be bringing pressure to bear on the regime?
Well, and that's certainly top of mind for them, is they've got a huge country that they have to keep fed. When people get hungry or their prices for food go up, they get mad, and rightly so. And then bad things happen when people get mad. So the Chinese government has a real balancing act, is they've got to make sure they protect their people, and they've got to make sure that prices are stable for food.
I think that's my favorite quote. Bad things happen when people get mad. I think that's going to be like...
Remember that.
I'm going to put in a card and give it to my husband and be like,
exactly,
when you pick a fight with me at 9:30 at night.
Yeah. Can he give it back to you?
So when you talk about the impact of farmers, we touched a little bit on this. How much money are farmers going to lose in the medium term on this? Well,
the ag economy, it's been tough for the last couple of years. As you know, we've had record harvests or huge bumper crops. Prices are down. They've been down for a while. I read an article just yesterday that came out of Iowa State that said the impact to the Iowa ag economy is $1.2 billion from the tariffs. Now, it had a range of, let's say, $800 million to $1.8 billion. But if you think about an ag state and an important ag state, and that is pork as well as corn, that's a big hit to I think it was something about 5 to 6% of the gross state GSP. I learned a new acronym, gross state product of Iowa.
What are the follow-on effects for that as a practical matter? Do people go out of farming altogether? Do they borrow more money? Do you see more leverage in farms? What are the real knock-on effects? I
think it's all of the above. That farmers will leave the industry. They'll go and try to do something else. They might plant alternative crops. I mean, there's a lot of farmers that are rotating into, say, non-GMO or organic farming, but that takes a while to kind of clear out the soil. We've got one of our partners who got out of corn farming in Iowa, and they're now raising peas. So pea protein as a source, an alternative source of protein. So if you think about the knock-on effects of tariffs, of technology, of consumption patterns, looking at alternative sources of protein away from the traditional beef, chicken, turkey, pork, that's what you're going to see. That's over the years to come.
Last question, super broad. What is the thing that keeps you up at night?
I would say the safety of our employees. We have 155,000 employees around the world, probably another 100,000 contractors. We have 1,500 locations, a lot of mechanized locations. We make beef, turkey, chicken around the world, plants, heavy equipment, a lot of people on vehicles. And I really want to focus on their safety and the impact that their safety has on their families, their loved ones. I've made it one of my top objectives in my time as CEO is to send everybody home safely every single day to reduce injuries. Cargill is the safest it's been in its 153-year history, but that's the thing that I sleep well because we have a great team. That's the thing that's on my mind.